when I blame you for the things.
Welcome to the DenCo Gridiron Show. John Piper along with Grayson Nolette. We will be live here at noon Central. If you're tuning into the replay or listening on the podcast, thank you for being here. We'll have a little buffer music as we prepare for another show. I think it's episode 8, Grayson.
Episode 8 of season 4.
Episode 8, man. Hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, it's gone by so quickly, honestly.
Talk about faith. Is it just something you say?
Hey fans, thanks for tuning in to the DenCo Gridiron Show. We are live. We will be going, starting the show in 4 minutes. Thanks for tuning in on your lunch hour. If you're here in North Texas, Denton County. John Piper along with Grayson Nolette. Getting prepped and ready for another big show, Grayson.
Got our week 3 recaps to go over. Got week 4 previews to go over.
Yeah.
Got Gridiron players of the week for week 3 as well. And, you know, maybe some news that some fans don't want to hear, but pertinent, important news that we'll definitely be bringing out to the crowd today.
Yeah, it's getting in the heart of the season. District play will start for most teams next week. Some district this week.
Like we said, season 4, episode 8. We've been here since before 5A and 6A play started. Been here since the beginning of 4A play. So,
yeah, post it in comments. Let us know. We always like to hear where fans are tuning in from. If you're right here in the Denton area, or if you're tuning in from West Texas, East Texas, used to live in the area and you moved to Colorado Springs. You know, that's what's cool about this format, Grayson, is people can tune in from literally all over the world.
That is one of the beauties
cool
of
stuff.
Having the ability to stream. And some of the positives you could take out of 2020 is, you know, just technology is continuing to be pushed forward, continuing to grow our audience and showing more and more people what the DenCo Gridiron Show is about every week. We're also live over here on Instagram right now. If you want a more behind the scenes kind of view, maybe you don't have access to Facebook or your computer right now or something of that nature, go ahead and check out the Instagram feed.
Sean McClary tuned in from Frisco, Texas on the lunch hour. We appreciate that, Sean.
Got a feeling there's some relation there to Braswell Bengals quarterback Tristan McClary.
Yeah. Let us know, Sean. If
don't worry, we'll be talking about him today.
What your relationship is with the quarterback of the Braswell Bengals, or it might just be a coincidence.
Hey, you know, might be. Nonetheless, we'll be talking about those Braswell Bengals today for sure.
Well, fans, this is the DenCo Gridiron Show live here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Instagram. John Piper along with Grayson Nolette.
Giving ourselves a round of applause right now.
How you doing, buddy?
Feeling great. Looking great. The weather's great.
Hey, I wanna hey, thank you, the viewer. We got actually quite a few folks tuning in here as we get into the heart of this Texas high school football season. Hey, we do want to welcome I didn't mention our podcast listeners. You can now get the DenCo Gridiron Show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker. We'll put that out in the link as well. So I know a lot of you, as you're traveling to and from work, audio is a great way to consume content. And, we don't want you distracted while you're driving. So don't try to watch the show while you're driving. Maybe pick up the replay on our podcast.
So Spotify, Apple Music. I want to say we're also on Bandcamp as well, or something of that.
Don't start making stuff up.
I know don't believe the Bandcamp.
We'll put it out
Spotify
there.
And Apple Music definitely though, and I personally am a Spotify user, John, and
Spotify is good.
I like to listen to our episodes on my drive home every single Wednesday. It's the first thing I do when I get in my car. I immediately replay the show.
Yeah, we like to critique ourselves. Say, hey, what could we have done better?
And now that we're on Spotify, it honestly makes it a lot easier for me to just open up my account. Boom, I'm right in. I'm already listening to the show. No buffering. I mean, it's great. I'm really glad that we're
if you hold that up there, Grayson.
Yep.
Hey, if you'll type in BBQ for barbecue, one of our longtime fans of the show, Suckle Busters, we're going to be giving away a
on Instagram
tailgate package. Just type in BBQ in the comments, and we'll get you entered into that. I do want to thank, I'll let you talk about Marty B's, but Bud Bartley Homes, one of our show sponsors. Bud Bartley, over 30 years building in North Texas. I can speak very confidently about them, Grayson, as they built my home over 15 years ago, building in 3 communities. You can get a home overlooking Lake Grapevine. They're building in Copper Canyon as well as Highland Village. Go to budbartleyhomes.com for more information or drop us a note. And you had a chance to go to Marty B's just last week.
I know. I'm such a busy guy with this show and calling Louisville games, going to grad school. But thankfully, my fiance and I finally had time to go check out Marty B's for the first time in person, which I feel like is a long time coming since they've been the sponsor of the show for a couple weeks here now. But man, I was blown away by our first experience there. We got to sit outside. It was like an open seating situation. So we got to sit right down. Our server was fantastic, and she just got to us all night, was very tentative. And I mean, we're very critical of that because my fiance and I both work in the service industry. So we were really nitpicky with our servers and stuff, but their serving staff was great. The food was great. We tried their barbecue platter. So we tried the brisket, we tried the pulled pork, tried some sausage as well, and mac and cheese. It was all just fantastic. And it was later in the afternoon too, so we were sitting outside. The weather was great, and the sunset happened just like over the landscape behind the Marty B's building. It's a huge property, huge building, tons of space.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and we always enjoy going to Marty B's. His tagline is, and we need to get some audio. We can play some audio maybe next week. It's like you're on vacation right here at Marty B's.
Yeah, they like to say it's always a party at Marty B's, and that's definitely the environment they like to promote. It's a very warm, very friendly environment. There were a lot of families there, lots of kids just enjoying the outdoor, the open spaces and stuff. And it's so open that you can do that even during these times at Marty B's. And I think the number one thing about it is that it's kind of right in the middle of Bartonville, but it feels secluded at the same time just because its property and the building is so big. It's a really great place.
Hey, couple shout outs. Cassidy, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. I think it's Koski, tuning in from Grand Forks, North Dakota. Hey, Cassie, let us know if you live here and you're just traveling for work or what your connection is to the Denton County football, the DenCo Gridiron Show. I'd love to hear more about that. Quite a few folks chiming in on the barbecue giveaway. We'll be giving, we'll go ahead and give one away next week. So tune in again next week, and we'll announce a winner of one of the tailgate packages.
And if you listen to any of the past shows when we were promoting this as well, and you typed in barbecue, you're already submitted. You can type it in right now too if you want to double submit. That's cool. But if you've already done it for one of the past shows, we've already got you in for that Suckle Busters contest as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And man, this has got to be one of the better starts that we've had. Just some nice viewer base already in here at the beginning.
Hey, let's jump right into the show.
Yeah, let's
talk a little Texas high school football, Grayson. Starting off with Geyer Wildcats and Mansfield Lake Ridge. Yep. It was senior night. It was last Thursday night up at CH Collins. I kind of like Thursday night games. I know a lot of the fans and the coaches not big on it, but it gives everybody an extra day off. It gives them a Friday night off. But Thursday night, got off to a slow start. Eli Stowers on the first drive was looking really solid, moving the ball for the Geyer Wildcats, and then tried to get some extra yards, and the ball got stripped, and he fumbled, turned it over to Mansfield Lake Ridge. But they end up winning this one 56-20. Got a lot of their second team in late in the game. Eli Stowers looked really solid, starting to get that poise and confidence after that injury last season in the state championship game.
Yeah, John, like you mentioned, you were on the call for that game, Thursday night game. It's honestly a good change of pace for us broadcasters personally, having to just do Friday after Friday after Friday. And then when you have a Thursday tossed in, it's always like a nice little change of pace. But Denton Geyer gets it done 56-20 despite a pretty slow start. And like you said, the star of the game, Eli Stowers. He led the team in passing and rushing, 22 for 27 through the air, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception, but completing over 80% of your passes. And on top of that, he led the team in rushing with 66 yards and a touchdown. Just a really big comeback game for Eli Stowers after struggling a bit last week against Denton.
Yeah, one of the storylines, too, is Mansfield had a real athletic quarterback, but 5 fumbles in the first half alone.
That would
have made that game a lot closer.
Yeah, that was the big storyline for Lake Ridge, unfortunately, that this game probably would have been a completely different story if it weren't for the fact that the Eagles, like you said, had 5 first-half fumbles, and you just can't do that against a team like Denton Geyer. The Wildcats are going to take care of business in that sense almost every time.
B.J. Phillips, the junior running back, only 10 carries, but averaging 6 yards a carry with 2 touchdowns. Also caught 2 balls out of the backfield for 80 yards. I tell you what, he's been real impressive early in this season, Grayson. Big, strong back, goes about 215, and has a little extra gear when he needs it.
Yeah, and he was kind of the star of the show last week for the Wildcats against Ryan. He had a majority of the touches in that one, had a nice performance, even though they weren't able to come out on top in that one. But this week, I mean, he just continues to be a really solid contributor and continues to flex that ability to catch out of the backfield as well. Like you said, he actually had more receiving yards this week than he did rushing, 80 receiving to just 60 rushing. But we have to, I feel like, give credit to 2 different wide receivers this week. Grayson O'Bara, obviously, had a bit of a slow week last week due to Eli Stowers having a slow game, but he gets back to business this week. 5 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. And he continues to just be an incredible story for the Wildcats, the struggles that he had to go through. And then on top of that, want to give a shout out to DeMarcus Howard as well, a guy who has been a little quiet for Geyer to begin the year, but he really had a breakout game against Lake Ridge, 10 catches, 106 yards. Nice game by DeMarcus Howard as well in the receiving corps.
Yeah, I think Grayson O'Bara was up for one of those vote, it's a Twitter thing, vote for play of the game kind of thing. He had a one-handed moss. I think they call it a moss. He mossed it. Yeah. Hey, I'm with you. You with you?
Hey,
Hey, Jace Wilson as well, the big receiver, 4 catches, 31 yards, and 2 TDs. He's going to become a more integral part of that Geyer offense as well. Defensively, 5 turnovers. Geyer forces 5 turnovers, all fumbles in the first half. Allowed just 3.7 yards per carry out of Lake Ridge, who tried to run the ball 45 times. We try not to talk about COVID, but this is very newsworthy. It broke yesterday that, it broke really Monday that Geyer versus Southlake over at Southlake Carroll Dragon ISD Stadium, which was going to be aired on ESPN. I was going to be doing the game on the radio, so really looking forward to that one. Was canceled. Southlake Carroll had a COVID reported player, and Geyer was really looking to find another opponent. We've seen that all season long, these especially 4A and below that have been playing for a couple weeks. trying to match up opponents that are canceled. Just couldn't find one due to the district play starting up. So Geyer will have an off week, an open week, just to get ready for district play.
Yeah, Geyer, unfortunately, and it really stinks that it has to be the South Lake Carroll game, because that was going to be such an exciting matchup between the Dragons and the Wildcats, and that was going to be at Dragon Stadium too, a really tough environment to play in. So it would have been a really huge win for Geyer going into the rest of their season to be able to take on the Dragons on the road. So unfortunately, COVID and just the inability to find new opponents is going to give the Wildcats an off week this coming week. We'll talk more about it later, but good news. Last week, we said that the Den Ryan Raiders were going to have to take a 2-week break. Well, thankfully, they've been able to work some things out, and they will actually be playing this week against the Den High Broncos on a Saturday game. So
yeah, up at CH Collins.
Yes, up at CH Collins. So we'll talk more about that matchup later on. But even though Geyer is now not playing this week, Ryan is back on with Den High for a Saturday matchup. So that's good. But before we talk more about Den High, we've got to talk about the Braswell Bengals and the Richardson Pierce Mustangs, John.
Yeah, I had a friend that his son played for Pierce last year. So he texted me, wanting to know the lowdown, because he knows, hey, we're the insiders for Denton County, Texas high school football. So I said, hey, you better slow down that quarterback, McClary. I think his parents might be on here. And they were not able to do that. It looks like a basketball score, 69-63.
I need somebody to just do me a quick favor and put some respect on the Braswell Bengals and Tristan McClary, please, and thank you. Dude, we were talking about this game. The Dave Campbell's had the Richardson Pierce Mustangs as a 35-point favorite.
Yeah, that's some type of computer ranking. I'm not sure where they get all that stuff.
I don't care where they get it from.
Pretty crazy.
It's disrespectful to the Bengals, in my opinion, because Braswell was coming off a huge win against Keller. Tristan McClary is the number 1 quarterback in 6A for very obvious reasons. Just go look at the numbers if you want to on Dallas Morning News, and you'll see why I really was very confident in Braswell's ability to come out on top on the road against a really tough Richardson Pierce Mustangs team. And that's exactly what happened. And like you said, an astronomical score of 69-63. And the stats are honestly just as ridiculous. Tristan McClary, 7 total touchdowns, 4 through the air, 3 on the ground. You had 2 different running backs with nearly 100 rushing yards, D. Gafford and Jamarian Sanford, 128 and 93 rushing yards, respectively. Both of them had rushing touchdowns as well. Cam Smith, 3 receiving touchdowns. I mean, just insane numbers put up by both clubs.
Braswell jumps out to a big lead. They're up 28 points in the first
Mustangs
half.
Tried to come back. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's hard to believe that, a high school team could fight their way back from 28 down. But, man, that was an exciting game if you were a fan in the stands, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And, I got to give some credit to Richardson Pierce. They had a great game. The Mustangs quarterback, Burke Wahlberg, put up just Madden numbers, 29 of 50, 509 passing yards, 7 passing touchdowns from that Mustangs quarterback. So he had probably a career game as well. But Tristan McClary had just as great of a night, 4 through the air, 3 on the ground, 7 total touchdowns for him. He continues to, even though he's the new starting quarterback for Braswell this year anymore, he's not new anymore. He is the full-fledged leader of this club. He's the number 1 quarterback in 6A, and I really hope he continues to flex his abilities as this season goes on, because it seems like Braswell's just getting better every week now.
We're going to have to talk to Coach Cody more about the defense at Braswell. That's one thing they talk about at the high school level. It's become such a fast-paced game that how do you slow the opposing offense down? And that's really the key, I think, to winning games is on the defense. How do you slow down the playmakers? Yeah.
And, I think we got to give a big shout out to Tamarian Taylor, a player on the defensive side of the ball for Braswell. This game came down to a game-sealing interception by him. It was the second interception of the game for Braswell. So as much credit as I've been giving Tristan McClary and really giving him a huge shout out, I gotta give Tamarian Taylor the credit that he deserves, which is sealing that win for Braswell at the end by getting that game-sealing interception. Congrats to the Bengals pulling off a huge win despite being big underdogs, and now they're going up against a Northwest Eaton Eagles team next week, which should be one of the easier matchups they've had so far in this 2020 season.
Yeah, I'm going to pull them up. Hey, another shout out to he goes by D Gafford, 17 carries, 128 yards, man. Explosive night for D Gafford.
Yeah, him and Jamarian Sanford both. Jamarian Sanford, 8 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, both of those guys have been very consistent in the backfield, just a total lightning and thunder type of combo. And Cam Smith really had a huge game this week as well. It was easily his biggest game so far of 2020. 8 catches, just under 200 yards, 199 to be exact, 3 receiving touchdowns. No, he was the only receiver with numbers like that, honestly, this week out of any of the teams that we covered, John. So Cam Smith, huge game for him as well.
It looks like, according to the computers, we needed like an audio sound for like a computer going. Braswell looks to be a 4-point favorite over Northwest Eaton. So kind of a pick 'em toss up.
Hey, it's better than a
Good
35-point underdog. So, and that's not to throw shade at Dave Campbell's, but I'm just saying, put some respect on Braswell's name and Tristan McClare, please and thank you. All right, let's move on.
Denton Broncos versus the Colony Cougars.
One of the 3 losses that we saw this week out of our 9 area teams, John. Denton High, I honestly thought they might have kept it a little bit closer, but they fall 31-7 in this one. And another slow start for both clubs. But the Colony was able to strike in the second half and also capitalized off of 2 costly Denton High turnovers. A very short punt and a fumble that happened in the second half really helped the Colony pull away. They had 21 fourth quarter points and really put the nail in the coffin there on the Broncos.
Yeah, we got Coach Billy Miller up here, and let's go ahead and we can, I think, segue into this Saturday's game. I really applaud Denton ISD for pulling this off. It was big news last week when Denton Ryan had to, I think they're still working it out, but in essence, forfeit 2 district games due to COVID.
That was the story last week, yeah.
But what they're going to do is the restriction goes off at 4 p.m. Friday, so they decided to play at 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Hey,
we applaud that.
It's you don't see a ton of high school games on a Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. but
until the playoffs come around, playoff action.
Yeah, playoff action, it can get a little busy with the schedule, and you'll see more morning games and early afternoon games and stuff like that. But at least for in the middle of the regular season, a district game like this, it'll probably, if you're a Den High or a Ryan Raiders fan and you're going to be going out to that game, you'll probably feel a little odd sitting there at 2 p.m. on a Saturday and you're like, oh wow, well, here we are for this game this week. But nonetheless, another in-town rivalry. This game is always, I feel like, a little bit more interesting than people give it credit for. I'm sure Ryan is a heavy favorite, being the number 1 team in 5A, and the Raiders will most likely get it done. Being at CH Collins.
Speaking of heavy favorite, again, according to the computer, let me see. I think I got a computer sound here. 66 points. So that, man, I think it's going to be much closer than that. So, Denton Broncos will have their work cut out for them, facing a very talented Denton Ryan Raider team.
2 p.m. Saturday, so at CH Collins, not Bronco Field. So remember, Ryan is the home team there at CH Collins.
Yeah, depending on what I've got going on, I might just ease up there. It's going to be a beautiful, weather. I haven't checked the forecast today, but I think it's supposed to be sunny.
That could be a really good time. Check out that in-town Den rivalry.
Hey, I do want to ask the fans, this season we're on noon Wednesdays. Let us know if you like that time. I kind of like the time. I think people like it. It's your lunch hour. It gives you a chance to watch the replay at night or the next day. The last couple seasons we would do it at 7 p.m. on or 8 p.m.
I know
on Wednesday nights.
I'm not a big... I know a lot of people like to call Wednesday, the hump day, getting over that hump of the week. And I like to think that we help them do that on Wednesday afternoons, help you get through your Wednesday, get through this hump day, and get into that back half of the week so everybody can prepare for some awesome high school football on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Hey, next up, the Flower Mound Jaguars, Mansfield Timberwolves. Man, the Jags knew going into this one, Grayson, it was going to be a tough match. Mansfield was, I think, a top 10 ranked team in the state. And talking with Coach, I have a chance to talk with Coach Basil each and every week. And, hard fought battle. They end up losing at 18-13, their first game at home at Noah Wilson Stadium. but they prepare for they're off this week actually, and then they've got the Mound Showdown in 2 weeks.
Yeah, all of District 66A is off this week. So that's Flower Mound, Marcus, Louisville, the team that I call. They're also off this week. But Flower Mound goes in against number 6 Mansfield Timberview, a game that we knew was going to be a really tough matchup for them. And we knew the Wolves were a really talented club. And Flower Mound actually went down 12-0 early on in this game and then actually surged back right near the end of the first half and were able to take a 13-12 lead going into the locker room. So actually a really great effort by the Jaguars to go into the locker room at the end of the first half, being up on the number 6 Wolves. And
actually, it was in the third quarter. They went down 12-0.
Yeah, the third quarter.
But then a couple turnovers, forced fumble, really got them right back in that game.
Yeah, and Mansfield Timberview threw a bomb 60-yard touchdown near the end of the game to take that 18-13 lead, and we're just able to squeak out of there with the win. But I think that this was still a really great performance by Flower Mound. I know that you didn't want to lose your home opener, but it's a really good Mansfield Timberview team, and I know that the Wolves were a heavier favorite than just 5 points, and you got to give credit to Brian Basil and company. The one X factor that I did say for this game was that if Nick Evers went out there and had like his best game of the season so far against Timberview, I was giving Flower Mound the edge. And although Nick Evers didn't have a bad game, he had 12 for 32 or 24, 126 yards and a touchdown. 126 yards and a touchdown is a solid game. I was thinking more like he needed to go off like 200 yards at least, 3 touchdowns, really show it to Timberview and get that offense going on another level in order to take down a tough team like that. Nonetheless, still a really great game for the Jaguars despite the loss.
Yeah, Flower Mound's defense has been just stellar this year. First 2 games, hold their opponent to below 10 points and hold a talented Mansfield Timberview team to only 18 points, led by Stone, Eby, and Colton Votney. They're anchoring that defensive line. Now, Votney punched it in for a touchdown, too. He's in a package where he gets to run the ball. I asked Coach Basil, I said, does Votney have a touchdown dance or anything? He just kind of laughed. I always like to see those big guys kind of with the touchdown celebration.
Refrigerator.
I don't think he's
Perry
quite that
style.
big.
Well, no, I don't think anybody's as big as Refrigerator Perry, but I think that's the clip that everybody likes to think of when you've got the big man going in for a touchdown. So
yeah, that's what started all that.
Yeah, then Vatney also had the one fumble recovery on the night for Flower Mound as well. So great game for Colton Vatney. And I know that Stone Eby usually gets a lot of the attention just due to his recognition going to a D1 school and stuff. But Vatney is an incredibly talented player on that defensive line as well. His talent should never be understated. He had a great game for Flower Mound.
Hey, fans, I do want to share something with you. Due to COVID, we weren't sure. We always have we don't do this show because we do the show because we love Texas high school football and what it does for the community. We weren't sure about COVID, if we were going to have a season, if we were going to have a show this year. So one thing we're doing now, we would love to have some patrons of the show, and I'm going to share that right now. It's something new we're doing. Just you can support what we're doing here at the DenCo Gridiron Show. And if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, over here on Instagram, well, you can just go to patreon.com. I've got the page pulled up, patreon.com/DenCo, DenCo. And for as little as $5, you can help support the show. It just goes to pay some of our expenses and feed the intern.
Hey, and that'll also give us more opportunities to do more stuff like with Suckle Busters or any of that, or any other contests or giveaways that we want to do in the future. A lot of those Patreon contributions are just going to get reinvested right back into the show.
Yeah, that's what we do.
This thing better for you guys.
We've got actually, I haven't told you this, about $2,000 worth of new equipment on order. It's already been ordered.
That's news to me as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
hey, constantly seeking improvement. That is really the motto over here.
One thing I'm trying to teach Grayson, some things I've learned is you can always improve. And I've got the link actually put up there. If you listen on the podcast, we would appreciate your support and put in comments. So we appreciate your support, fans, and thanks for tuning in. Now, Grayson, back to football.
Of course, back to football. We're still in Flower Mound, but now we're checking out Kevin Atkinson and company over with the Marcus Marauders. They And by the way, just to wrap up Flower Mound, remember all of 6A has a bye week this week. So the Jaguars do have a bye week this week, as well as the Marcus Marauders, who we're talking about right now. They hit the road this past Friday to take on the Keller Central Chargers. I said that the Marauders were probably going to cruise in this one, and that's exactly what they did. 49-10, the final score there. Garrett Nussmeier, the future LSU Tiger, just continuing to prove why he is one of the tops in 6A.
Hey, speaking of LSU, boy, I don't know if you've been following the college football scene, but they've been struggling. They got beat by Missouri.
They
on the road at Missouri. No, that's part of it, but really struggling. Their second loss in this early season.
I know a lot about SEC football, so I'm not going to go down into that vortex too deep, but the LSU Tigers did lose a ton of talent to the NFL this season, so definitely a rebuilding year for them. They are not the championship team that they were last year, but that just happens sometimes. Some schools just lose a lot of guys to the NFL. I believe they lost something like 16 starters to the NFL. And I mean, that's just a huge number for any program to lose. So once Garrett Nussmeier gets up there, I'm sure that Coach Borgeron and company, they're probably going to have some talent around that kid for sure. No
Hey,
worries.
one thing that's a little interesting, I don't know if you follow the recruiting news, but Billy Bowman Jr. of the Ryan Raiders was committed to the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
He decommits, and then he tweets out a few days later, that he's very thankful to get an offer from the LSU Tigers.
Oh, yes, I do. Okay, so I remember seeing on social media that he got that offer. I was not aware that.
So it'd be interesting to see if Garrett Nussmeier,
decommitted
one of his
and committed.
targets, is Billy Bowman Jr.
Man, that is
years.
That'll be an interesting thing to see. The Marcus Marauders quarterback Garrett Nussmeier tossing it around to Billy Bowman Jr. of the Ryan Raiders. That'll be something to watch. But as much as we like to harp on Garrett Nussmeier, by the way, another great game for him, obviously 19-25 against Keller Central, 205 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air. But Marcus finally was able to get going on the ground this week. They've actually kind of been struggling in the run game for the most part. Gabe Espinoza, first 100-yard rusher, I believe, of the season for the Marauders, 10 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown. And Walker Wells also had 63 yards rushing and a touchdown as well. So it's nice to see that Marcus was able to get the ground game going against the Chargers for sure.
Yeah, good stuff. Like you mentioned, they're both open. It's always exciting here in the community when Flower Mound Jaguars take on Flower Mound Marcus. Coach Basil's had some success against the Marauders the last couple of years. And
it's always a tough game.
Yeah, I think according to the computers, it is I believe about a 9-point differential.
And that game is going down in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, because both of those
Correct.
teams have
October 23rd is that game, and that'll be an exciting one. We'll try to get some coverage on that one and maybe do some special things around the Mound Showdown. Always fun. I've actually we did a DenCo Gridiron show live a couple years ago from Flower Mound before kickoff. It was a lot of fun. I had some fans on, and I always enjoy interacting with the fans at the stadiums. A little tougher this year with the COVID situation, but
yeah, Flower Mound Jaguars and the Marcus Marauders going to be a heck of a matchup in 2 weeks. And Marcus also had a lot of the ball spread around in the pass game as well, thanks to obviously the likes of Garrett Nussmeier, but also J. Michael Sturdivant, 2 touchdowns. Dallas Dudley had himself a touchdown, and then Connor Vaughn and Tyler Schott also each had a receiving touchdown. And the Marcus defense, 2 turnovers, 1 interception, and 1 fumble, really cruising to a nice 49-10 win there over the Keller Central Chargers.
Grayson, next up, the Argyle Eagles.
Moving on down to 4A.
And I was following that one some on the Twitter and some of the other feeds that I have. Another big win for Argyle Eagles. I texted Coach Rogers over the weekend.
Were we surprised, Instagram? Were we surprised, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whoever's out there? Were we surprised?
Coach Rogers' 200th win. What an amazing feat. Hey, let's give Coach Rogers a little round of applause. I mean, it takes a lot. We talk about it all the time. These Texas high school coaches during the season, it's a 80, 90-hour week job. Most of them are athletic directors as well on their campuses. They're there for freshman practice or JV practice at 6:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. And then a lot of times aren't leaving like a freshman or JV game during the week till 9-10 p.m. It's a grind.
200 career wins for the head coach of the Argyle Eagles, Todd Rogers. I mean, just saying it, you can just kind of feel the amount of hard work that it must have taken to get to that point. So just a huge round of applause, huge congratulations to Todd Rogers. And I know that he knows that he's got a lot of gas left in the tank as well to continue coaching this fantastic team that remains undefeated as they blew out the Anna Coyotes on the road. Now, last week they played the Melissa Cardinals, John, and Melissa,
a tough opponent.
Really
Melissa is
team.
Really
Yes.
an up and comer over there on the east side of the Metroplex.
And Argyle ran right through them, and that was kind of what led you and I discussing last show, saying, well, if they're running over the Melissa Cardinals, a really solid, really, really good team, then I don't think that there's any reason why they should struggle with the Anna Coyotes, who have had their own struggles this season as Argyle just cruises right through to a 45-7 win. CJ Rogers, one passing touchdown, 247 yards through the air, also had a rushing touchdown. But I'd like to give a shout out to the fact that the run game had a man back out there on the field by the name of Tito Bice, as he finally, through whatever means, we don't know if he re-aggravated his injury from last year or if just something happened in that very first game where he only had one carry, took it 80 yards for a touchdown. Haven't seen him in several weeks. Well, here he was out here in this game against Anna, got 9 carries, 51 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. So Tito Bice back at it for the Eagles.
I do want to give her a shout out. I think she's been a fan from season 1, week 1, always tuned in to what we're doing here at the DenCo Gridiron Show. Margie Campbell, hey, thank you. You've been a great supporter of the show. And it would be awesome. Margie becomes like a VIP patron of the show, and maybe we could even have her call in one day. That would be awesome, Margie. What do you think?
Yeah, we always appreciate the day one supporters. You know what I mean? If you're a day one supporter, you've been here longer than I have. This is my first season with the show. So always appreciate the support, Margie. But yeah, gotta just harping more, I guess, on Argyle here. Like I said, Tito Bice back out on the field for the Eagles, which only makes them better because he's such a talented running back. But
yeah, that's good to see. We were a little concerned, I know Coach Rogers want to bring him on gingerly, and he's done that. Hopefully that'll give Tito Bice plenty of horsepower to go deep into the playoffs, because everyone is banking on the Argyle Eagles to go have another deep playoff run like they do about each and every year.
Yeah, and even though Tito Bice had 9 carries and 2 touchdowns, it's pretty impressive how well Argyle is able to spread the ball around in the backfield. Braden Baker had 15 carries for 109 yards and a touchdown, and he's actually a top 10 running back in 4A. And I feel like that's kind of gone over our heads a little bit, John, just because of how consistent Braden Baker has been all year for Argyle in that backfield, whether Tito Bice has been in the lineup or not. And also Peyton Shoemake had 14 carries for 71 yards. So it's pretty impressive how well the Eagles are able to spread the ball around in the backfield and get several guys into a rhythm throughout the game.
Yeah, fun to watch. And you ready for this one?
Is it money?
Well, we can't talk about money on the show. There's no gambling activities on Texas high school football, but it is 68. Argyle is favored by 68 points against Carrollton Creekview.
Oh, that's their. Oh, yeah, Carrollton.
68 points.
Ranchview that they're taking on next week.
According to the computer.
By the way, when I said money, I'm talking about Cash Walker. Just
yeah. Yeah, we like that name, Cash Walker. Cash
Eagles
money.
Receiver also had a nice game. He led the team in receiving this week. Usually it's Cole Kirkpatrick, but Cash Walker had himself a 94 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Cole Kirkpatrick had 4 catches for 55 yards as well. But that Argyle defense, they really stood it up to Anna. They had 2 turnovers, 1 interception, 1 fumble, and they only allowed 81 total rushing yards on just 2.7 yards per carry. So got to give a big shout out to that Eagles defense as well. And it's no surprise that they are such heavy favorites next week against Carrollton Ranchview, expecting another big win out of them there.
Grayson next up, the Lake Dallas Falcons. Tough game. We know the Frisco teams have a lot of talent, and they ran into a very good Frisco Raccoon team, losing that one last week, 39-3.
Yeah, Lake Dallas scored its lone points on a 30-yard field goal by Preston Gregg in the 4th quarter. Frisco, the Raccoons, maintained control basically throughout the entire game. We said that Frisco team was pretty good, and that Lake Dallas was going to have to try to change something up to get their offense going a little bit more with Trevor Moon and company. And I don't want to say it was, I mean, that the game is a complete failure or anything for the Falcons, but they just are continuing to struggle on the offensive side of the ball. Trevor Moon has led the team in basically passing and rushing nearly every week. No running back has really been able to stand out for Lake Dallas. Trevor Moon seems like he just hasn't really been able to get into too much of a rhythm since that win over Denton High. The defense had 2 fumble recoveries, so even with a couple of turnovers by Frisco, the Raccoons were still constantly maintaining control. I know Michael Young is a smart coach over there for Lake Dallas. He's got to turn the gears in some way or another. I know that he's trying to get these Falcons on the right track right now, but they've just had a pretty tough past couple weeks since they lost, or since they got that one win against Denton High.
Yeah, I have to get by and then check out a practice over at Lake Dallas soon. And it's early in the season.
Of course.
Coach Young's been there for, I think, 15 plus years now, runs a tremendous program, just the epitome of Texas high school football there in the Lake Dallas community. And we're confident that they will bounce back and
absolutely
have a solid season here in 2020.
They're going to hit the road against Frisco Lebanon Trail on Friday. That's a 7:00 kickoff there on the road in Frisco. So we'll see what Michael Young's able to cook up this week. Maybe he, completely changes the whole game plan or whatever. We don't know. But all we know is that his team and his program are doing everything they can to improve each and every week. And that's all we can hope for out of the Falcons right now.
Well, folks, if you are stumbling on this on YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, or Instagram, we are the DenCo Gridiron Show, Grayson Nolette, and I'm John Piper. We're also on a podcast that you can find the DenCo Gridiron Show about wherever you find your podcasts. So we're on actually 5 platforms this year. 5 platforms.
Yeah, so Spotify, Apple Music, any of those streaming apps, we will also be uploading our episodes onto there as well for, just more accessibility, more replay value for you guys. So thank you for tuning in.
And we always like your feedback. We're always looking to tweak things.
Absolutely. Message us, comment, react. Let us know if you like the show, if you don't like the show, if you like aspects of it, what aspects do you not like? I mean, we are always trying to improve, always trying to make this thing better for you guys. We want to know what the fans like and what they don't like.
And that reminds me, I'm going to email Marty B's as soon as the show's over. We are going to have a live show at Marty B's this year. We need to get that date scheduled so we can have a cool event. I'll probably do it one weeknight. We'd have to do a weeknight, maybe that doesn't conflict with your schedule.
No,
but that would be a lot of fun.
I know that we're definitely still trying to plan that out with Marty B's right now and make that happen. And if you want to check out more about Marty B's, make sure you go to their website, martybsplace.com. They are definitely going to be just a great venue to do a show from, John. And don't be afraid to come out and join us for that episode, because there is plenty of space over there at Marty B's. Trust me, you guys are going to want to come up and tune in and get some great food while you listen into us for that show whenever that happens. So, John, I think we've got one more school left for our week 3 recaps.
Team, the Liberty Christian Warriors.
Moving on over to TAPS.
Got head coach Stephen Greek up on the screen there, and they run into another tough matchup. Coach Greek has told us each and every week they have like an SEC type opponent in their TAPS division.
Well, what's interesting this week is that we were under the impression that they were going to be taking on the All Saints, John, and once the game comes and goes, turns out that they took on the Frisco Reedy Lions. I'm not sure if COVID or what maybe had happened there. I mean, from all the sources that we had checked from last week's show, they were supposed to take on the All Saints. They end up taking on the Frisco Reedy Lions in a non-district matchup nonetheless. But the Warriors, even though they take another fairly tough loss, 42-13, they actually came out with a strong opening lead. And Daniel Greek was actually able to connect with Christian Driver early on in that one. And Ty Strickland was able to make things happen early on in the game as well for Liberty Christian. And they just, I think, maybe lost some gas in the tank by the fourth quarter. And Frisco Reedy was eventually able to gain control and kind of pull away from the Warriors late in that matchup.
Yeah, one thing of the many things that Coach Greek and his staff does is they reach out to the schools and colleges, and they're going to have an event. I'll put it out on our Twitter and Facebook page, but they're having an event. I believe it's December 2nd. It's even open to players outside of Liberty. that can come meet. They're going to have like 20 college programs represented there, and just a great opportunity here in the community. You know, it's one reason we do what we do is to share that knowledge, and we'll put something out on all the social media platforms about that event coming up in December.
Yeah, that'll be a big thing for any high school athlete that's in the area. They can go out, get themselves and show their talent off to a bunch of different college representatives and such. So we'll definitely try to keep our fan base updated on that information and how whether a player or you are a player out there that's interested in that, we'll try and keep you updated on that information for sure.
Well, Grayson, since we talked about, I think, some of the next week's matchups as we went through the show, let's just jump right ahead to a really cool feature segment, Players of the Week.
Yeah, our DenCo Gridiron Players of the Week. We, like you said, John, we already went through a lot of those last week matchups. Just the only couple ones I want to harp on or make sure you remember that Flower Mound and Flower Mound Marcus both have a bye week this week. Guyer now had their game canceled due to COVID-19 situations with South Lake Carroll. And of course, Denton Ryan and Denton High, we thought that game was going to be canceled. It is back on now for this Saturday. It's going to be a Saturday 2:00 kickoff. So yeah, we talked about a lot of the matchups already, but just want our fans to know about those couple interesting ones as well. But of course, let's go ahead and jump on into our Gridiron Players of the Week. We got a quarterback, we got a running back, we got a wide receiver that we like to harp on every week. This week, for our quarterback, we're moving all the way up to 6A, and it was a comeback game for Guyer Wildcats quarterback Eli Stowers.
Yeah, 22 of 27, 303 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. I don't think he even played the fourth quarter, Grayson. Just very poised back there. Once he settled in, you know, he was ball got stripped early, had a turnover, but you know, great players learn from those mistakes. He protected the ball well, really throwing the ball with a lot of efficiency and hitting some receivers that are been pretty well covered.
And although Eli Stowers didn't put up maybe as astronomical of statistics as, let's say, Tristan McClary, for example, who had 7 total touchdowns in that win against Richardson Pierce, the reason why I picked Eli Stowers this week as our Gridiron quarterback player of the week is because of just the comeback that he had to make in this game. Last week, he really struggled against Den Ryan, but he came out this week and led the team through the air and led the team in rushing. A big performance after a slow week like that. He really needed one, and he made it happen for Guyer and gets a big win over the Lake Ridge Eagles, 56-20. So that's why we had to give it to Eli Stowers this week. Really a great comeback game for him after struggling against Ryan.
And Grayson, next up, running back for the Argyle Eagles, Braden Baker.
I was harping on this guy earlier, trying to give a preview to this, but Braden Baker from the Argyle Eagles is our Gridiron Player of the Week at running back. Just he had 15 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Maybe again, not like the most insane Madden like performance, but he led the team in rushing attempts and yards despite the return of Tito Bice to that backfield and other running backs getting legitimate carries like Knox Scoggins as well as a couple of other guys. And he has just been so incredibly consistent all year long for Argyle. I felt like that with a performance like this, he gets the majority of the carries, still gets over 100 yards and a touchdown. And I believe he's actually he's the number 6 running back in 4A right now. Just wanted to give Braden Baker some credit on just another great consistent performance and being one of the top running backs out of the 9 teams that we cover this week.
Especially picking up the load with Tito Bice being out the majority of the season early on.
Down, but he stays just as consistent and just as good. I felt like that really deserves some credit.
And then another featured player here on the DenCo Gridiron Show, wide receiver Cam Smith, 8 catches, 199 yards with 3 touchdowns. Wow. Yeah. What a performance.
I was really close to giving Tristan McClary Player of the Week again. He was actually our week 1 Gridiron Player of the Week for those 7 touchdowns that he had, but 3 of them were because of Cam Smith, who also just had a monster game through that very talented Braswell receiving core. Like you said, 8 catches, about 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He led the team in catches, yards, and receiving touchdowns versus Richardson Pierce. He also led all 9 of the teams that we cover in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns this week as well, John. So if there was any player that it was really easy to determine who was going to be a Gridiron Player of the Week this week, it was Cam Smith.
Well, Grayson, man, what a show. And man, we're getting right into the heart of the Texas high school football season. For Grayson Nolette, I'm John Piper. We'll be right back here noon next Wednesday. Y'all have a great week.
Thanks for tuning
Thanks
in.
for tuning in.
Hey, I'm Mike Ducey from Fox 4. Make sure to tune in to the DenCo Gridiron Show.